Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast, your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Alter. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be with me here today. This one will be worth your time, I guarantee it. This episode is packed, dense, filled with nutritional wisdom, healing information from a very inspiring guest who's been doing incredible work. I'm so grateful to have had the honor and privilege of connecting with our guest, Dr. Joel Fuhrman, at his new Nutritional Healing Retreat Center in San Diego, California, where he is supporting tons of people in reversing chronic health conditions, releasing tons of weight, essentially empowering people to take charge of their health and their life through nutritional excellence. So through his medical practice, as well as his New York Times best-selling books, including Eat to Live, Eat for Health, Super Immunity, End of Diabetes, End of Dieting, End of Heart Disease, Fast Food Genocide, and my personal favorite, the Eat to Live cookbook, which is packed with nutrient-dense, whole food, plant-based, delicious and nutritious healing recipes. So through all those books and PBS specials and appearances on Dr. Oz, Dr. Fuhrman has impacted the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, supporting people in reversing chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, autoimmunity, chronic pain syndromes, using a nutrient-dense, plant-rich eating style that he calls the Nutritarian diet. Dr. Fuhrman is the president of the Nutritional Research Foundation and is a frequent guest on the Dr. Oz Show, for which he serves on the Medical Advisory Board. He is an internationally recognized expert on nutrition and natural healing. Dr. Fuhrman is also a health and fitness enthusiast whose athletic background gives him keen insight into the importance of diet and physical exercise. Before graduating from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, Dr. Fuhrman was actually a world-class figure skater who placed third in the 1976 World Professionals Pairs Skating Championship. Dr. Fuhrman devotes his life to nutritional research, staying up to date on the thousands of articles published in scientific journals and working with nutritional researchers around the world. His expertise includes 25 years of experience caring for more than 10,000 patients with serious medical conditions, and in most cases, facilitating their complete recovery via nutritional methods. His books have no preconceived philosophy, agenda, or bias. They are simply an uncompromising assessment that offers the gold standard of nutritional excellence to foster the greatest potential for disease prevention, reversal, and extending human lifespan. So I really appreciate the way that Dr. Fuhrman has stayed rooted and grounded with integrity to his mission, which is promoting the Nutritarian diet and lifestyle, because this world, as you might be aware of, is just totally confusing with all sorts of conflicting, trendy nutrition plans and diets. And we kind of cut through a lot of that stuff in our conversation. We talk about a few different dietary misconceptions. We talk more about the Nutritarian diet and what that means and how it's implemented. We talk about straying from the Nutritarian diet and why that's not even necessary. We talk about what happens when people might stray from a healing, nutrient-dense diet. And one thing that I take away and that I learn is just how powerful food addictions are and why it is impossible to be connected with our authentic hunger signals when we're eating junk food, and why cleaning up the diet is actually the first step to anything. We need to clean up the diet first to reestablish this authentic signal of hunger pathway in the body. So I hope you learned something. I'm sure you will. And if you do, I'd so appreciate if you subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and feel free to share it with anyone you feel might be touched or inspired by hearing this healing information. So without further ado, just sit back, relax, and enjoy this one with Dr. Joel Fuhrman. So, Dr. Fuhrman, Thanks again for being here. Thanks again for having us over at your beautiful place here. And thanks for being willing to be on this podcast.
My pleasure. Excited to talk to you today.
All right. Excited. So if you would tell us a little bit about how you've been drawn into food as medicine as your professional career in the world of medicine as it is today.
Right. Well, I started out when I was young learning about this and eating a healthy diet because I was a competitive athlete and my father was sickly and he started reading a lot of health and nutrition books. Mm-hmm. And I got into it and got really enthusiastic about it. Mm-hmm. And then when I finished my ice skating career, my father had a chain of shoe stores which I was managing because he wanted to retire and me to take it over. But I decided my real passion was using nutritionist therapy. I decided to take the pre-medical, postgraduate pre-medical course at Columbia. And then when I did that, go back to medical school after I had already graduated from college already. I started the pre-med all over again. Mm-hmm. And then I went to medical school later. Mm-hmm. But it's just been an incredibly satisfying, rewarding career. And I'm so blessed and feel so grateful to have had the opportunity to have influenced so many people around the world. Mm-hmm. and been able to facilitate the recoveries from heart disease and diabetes and headaches and fibromyalgia and asthma and rheumatoid arthritis and multiple sclerosis and ulcerative colitis. I mean, so nutrition is powerful. It's 100 times more effective. You can't compare it to using drugs that doctors use because those are ineffective. And people continue with the same abusive behaviors that caused the problem to begin with, so they stick their whole life. Mm-hmm. So to be able to afford people the opportunity to make complete recoveries and have a healthy life in their future has just been such an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, it's really amazing the work that you've done and how you've reached so many people and influenced so many people through your writings and now here at your retreat center, giving people that immersive experience to really take charge in their life. And I'm curious, you mentioned before about being a teenager, being an athlete. Mm-hmm. When you were growing up, was food a central component around your family, or?
It was. I think after the age of 10 or 12, my father was overweight and somewhat sickly. And then when he started reading, Herbert Shelton's works in natural hygiene, he started changing our diet, more salads, more fruit, watching what we ate. And we used that through our skating career to get better stamina and not be sick. So I started to read a lot of health books along with him. So yes, I think in my most of my childhood, or at least my later childhood years, I was aware of eating healthfully.
Yeah, and when that change took place in your family, was that difficult for your father or your mother or yourself? Do you remember any difficulty with that?
I just remember my mother was more reticent and she didn't want to give up all her junk food and she still at one point even smoked cigarettes. Uh-huh. My mother used to eat, like kind of cookies with, I remember like icing on them or whatever it is she would eat, But then we imagined as the children, we forced her to quit smoking and we would get rid of her junk food. We'd dump it out. I mean, so we and then as she got older, she realized this was the way to go. Mm-hmm. And she changed her diet. But I remember when we were younger, my mother was the one who was more resistant to change in my family. My father was the one who kind of wanted everybody to eat healthy,
Mm-hmm. So he was the one who was making the decisions. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when we're talking about lifestyle medicine, really, the whole life has to change. You don't just change. I mean,
the whole family unit needs to cut changes. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course we change our meals and what we're eating, but since food is an essential part of our social environment, our lifestyle, we do change the life as a whole.
Right. So, and that's what makes it, so difficult for so many people who have serious conditions, who are overweight or obese. And they know they should eat differently, but they can't. Mm-hmm. They're so addicted and their social environment makes it too difficult for them. Mm-hmm. And that's why always been my dream to have a place like this where people can come and stay. Mm-hmm. Because now if they stay for 4 weeks or for 12 weeks or longer even, we get into their heads. We change them as a person. Their personalities change. Mm-hmm. They feel like they all say the same thing. They all say, a cloud is lifted from my brain. I can think more clearly. I'm more creative. Their taste buds and their smell increases. Mm-hmm. They lose their food addictions, but we treat them psychologically and emotionally too, as the full holistic sense. Mm-hmm. So we're getting them to really enjoy this way of eating and prefer it over their old way of eating, which takes time, and to go through what are the factors in their life that made them choose to use food for solace and for therapy and for emotional support, and to get rid of that and to really get other needs to meet their emotional needs met, not use food. And then they learn how to make it taste great, they learn the recipes, and so we're really able to create a complete transformation So when we let people leave, let them leave, when they do leave, they're able to continue eating healthy because that's the way they prefer to eat. One person, Nicole, she lost 50 pounds when she was here for the 3 months. And then in the year she was gone, she lost 150 more pounds.
Wow.
So for the whole year, she lost 200 pounds. And she was in my earlier retreat. But now I've wanted to have a place where I could really feel great about people coming and give them the right type of staff and the right type of caring and my own personal attention. So because I still want that connection with people, to be not just to write books and give lectures and be on television, but we're actually caring for sick people and helping them individually get better. That's part of my life that I was missing too much. You know what I mean? And this environment enables me to not just see a person as a visit and then see them 3 months later, or and you don't know whether they did it or not, or whether they succeed or not. Most people don't. You tell them, if this person could do it, I could save their life. And there they are in the ICU a month later because they didn't do it. If you spent an hour with them. So now I can spend that time and I can immediately get that feedback and satisfaction because I see them, 4 days later, 1 week later, 2 weeks later. Oh, you dropped 10 pounds this week. Oh, you're off your diabetic medications finally. Oh, your blood pressure's back to normal. Okay. So it gives me that continuity. And it's really satisfying for everybody concerned because I can guarantee the results I want to see.
Yeah, I think having that consistency is really important, and just having a doctor's visit here and there can be a lot of holes that need to be filled in.
Right. Yeah. And it's not that we don't help a lot of people with the other way. Yeah. It's just there are certain people we need to have that 100% security and assurance that this person's going to get better, especially people who are in need of getting well and are seriously ill. Because as you can imagine, some people are this close to hitting the coffin. They wait until they get some serious illness and then they want to be fixed.
Right.
And unless I could really control everything and making sure they could do everything perfect, they can't just play around with doing this. They got to really do this perfectly.
That's a really good point. And that's where nutritional excellence comes in, which is what you talk about. And because I think, nutrition is on this spectrum of junk food to nutritional excellence. Right. And a lot of people are somewhere in between, and I eat pretty healthfully, but not so much, like I splurge or let myself go on the weekends. But striving towards nutritional excellence, I really like that. And especially it becomes important with these chronic diseases that have been, progressing for decades.
And when you have this person who's a food addict, they can't do it baby steps, because when they go off their diet a little bit, it creates that recidivism. It creates that a desire to want to have more of that food, and they go binge and they go off it completely, and they just bounce back and forth and yo-yo their weight. In other words, it's like a cocaine addict or an alcoholic. It's hard to control your alcohol intake when you're an alcoholic. You're either binging or you're off of it. Yeah. It's better to recognize you're an alcoholic and stay off the alcohol.
Yeah, not just drink on the weekends.
It doesn't work for some people who have trouble with food like this. They really need to get separated from that environment and be away from those foods to get rid of that attraction for those. They really need this badly. And the other thing is the soil, because what nobody recognizes here is that when you flood the body with the right kind of nutrients, it improves not just immune function and your whole body, but it improves your brain. And it helps you get over the dopamine insensitivity and the addiction. So when we give them such high quality, nourishing food, including the food is only good as the soil it comes from. When you have the best soil in the world, you've got the best food in the world, and the food tastes better, and it's better for you, and we can facilitate a better recovery with the right type of water and the right type of soil and the best food production, because we really can make their nutrients idealized, so it enables us to have more power at getting people well.
Yeah. Well, I've always really appreciated your equation that you've offered the world: health equals nutrients over calories. Right. And this whole idea of being a Nutritarian and really just seeking nutrients. Right. And I've resonated with that because I've always said that each meal is an opportunity to nourish yourself, and that's the bottom line. It's either nourishing yourself or it's maybe harming you.
That's right. It's either exactly. You said that perfectly. Yeah. You're either eating something good or you're hurting yourself. There's no in between. And what people don't recognize is that when you flood the body with these nourishing substances, that's critical in making you desire less calories. That's critical in making you not desiring to overeat. So the opposite is true. In other words, when your diet is nutritionally inadequate, you become a food-consuming machine that can't be controlled. when you're not meeting your nutritional needs.
And I've heard people talk about, overfed and undernourished. Right. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep. You can't control your desire to overconsume calories when you're undernourished. Mm-hmm. But when you have excellent nutrition, mm-hmm. then you don't want to overeat anymore. Mm-hmm. So all the pieces mesh together, because the most anti-cancer foods and the most a dietary portfolio that includes the most powerful anti-cancer substances in them also has the best effect on brain function and makes you think more clearly, get more excited about life, more creative, and helps you be able to resolve your addictive tendencies. When you're excellently nourished.
Yeah, I love that. And in your education and your practice, can you speak a little bit to how your awareness of nutritional excellence has evolved over the decades? I mean, have you always called yourself a Nutritarian and used that term and really focused on micronutrients, or have you kind of played with other philosophies around nutrition and eating?
I've never played with any of the philosophy.
Yeah.
I mean, my agenda always was to do what was ideal for people they have to know what's the gold standard. Mm-hmm. They have to know what to strive for. And if you try to weaken it and water it down to try to have more of the masses embrace it, then you sell out those individuals who needed to know what excellent eating was to get better. Then you sold out those people who wanted to know what was best just to have a more commercial application of your message. And everybody does that, and everybody would say to me, it's not going to work, Joel, because nobody's going to eat that healthy, and you're going to sell more books, and you get, just to give them more ability, don't make it so strict, weaken this, weaken that. And I'd say, no, that's not what this is for. That's not to do what everybody else does and to water it down. This is so people understand what true nutritional excellence is, to maximize human longevity, to slow aging, to live to be 100 years old in great health. And if they choose not to do it, that's on them. Mm-hmm. And if they choose to water it down, that's on them. But they have to understand what's best, or they'll never understand the principles and never understand the opportunity this gives us. And you know what? Mm-hmm. That when you do it 100%, it becomes easier to do it. It becomes, your taste buds get better. You enjoy eating this way even more. Mm-hmm. And what it gives you is just a phenomenal, it's so worth it because you feel great all the time. And then when you don't eat that way, you don't feel as good, because when you are just starting out with this and you eat so healthy, you feel like crap because your body's detoxifying and your body is eliminating all the waste products. But when you do it a long time, your body's used to being so clean that when you go off it, you don't feel well. The body's, hasn't built up a tolerance for the junk. Yeah. But the point I'm making is that it's not harder to do it 100%. For most people, it's easier because they're not being torn with a leg in both worlds, being pulled in both directions. They have less decisions to make because they made one decision at the beginning. And I'll take a patient who comes to me, and I'll say, look, you making the choices about what to eat over the last year, 6 months hasn't worked that well. Mm-hmm. You're eating what you think you should eat, and you're eating what you feel like eating and what you like to eat. But you're 60 pounds overweight and you have heart disease and diabetes. Yeah. So this is what we're going to do this time. I'm going to make the decisions about what you're going to eat. And you're going to eat it whether you like it or not. Now, it's my job to make sure you like it, but you got to give me a few months to be able to teach you out of the recipes, to retrain your taste buds, to strengthen your smell and taste. But I promise you, if you give me that 3 to 5 months, then I'll have you loving it. But you have to eat it no matter what, even if you don't like it the first couple of months. And
so
you have to trust me.
This is what you tell the people that come here? You have to...
Well, no, that's what I tell the people that come to my office, that come to see me one-on-one. Yeah. I say, if you're going to test out my methodology and see whether this works for you, you've got to really test it out scientifically. You can't do some modified version of it. You've got to do exactly what I'm telling you to do, But when they come here, I don't have to tell them they have to do it 100% because they don't have any choice in the matter.
They know things in their room.
They know why they're here.
Yeah.
And they know over time, and they're learning how to make it taste great. They're seeing it taste great. They're loving the food, and we're teaching them how to recreate those flavors so they can do it when they get home. They're developing the skills when they leave here. They can do it for themselves. It's much easier when they're here. But I'm saying when they're, so this idea that everybody else thinks that, Dr. Fuhrman, it's too strict. It's too, he's too much of a perfectionist and nutritionally, and it's, better to cheat. And it's too, we can't, it's and I'm saying, no, that's, most people who are in trouble and most people who've gotten in trouble they don't have a high chance of success in sticking with it unless they do it all the way. It increases their chance of success. It increases the results, and it makes it easier for them to do it, not harder. People don't get that.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And at the same time, it does raise some questions about, like you said, you're in it all the way. So what happens if you were to eat a piece of chocolate cake or something? How does your body respond?
Okay, first of all, I just want to make this clear that if I could eat by taste alone, with no influence on health,
you wouldn't choose chocolate cake.
I would like my Dr. Fuhrman chocolate cake over conventional chocolate cake made without sweetener, with just dates and real cocoa powder, and there's beets in there, and there's carrots in there, and there's almonds in there, and it tastes so delicious.
I'm with you.
Have you tasted that? Have you tasted my cake?
I haven't tasted your cake, but I'm with you that
because this regular chocolate cake, it's so disgusting. It's so much sugar. It has no flavors. It has no texture. It's just, and intellectually, it's like disgusting. Okay, so what was the question again?
So when was the last time?
What would I feel like if I ate that?
What would you feel like, or maybe it's not chocolate cake, but like a potato chips, what happens in your body? Or does that happen? Do you have potato chips?
No, I wouldn't eat potato chips. Do you snort cocaine? Why not?
Because I take care of my body.
Well, you couldn't get 10 men to tie me to a chair to force a potato chip into my mouth. You wouldn't happen.
Okay, so
but let's just assume
what is the stretch for Dr. Fuhrman?
Well, let's say, look. If I address that, not Dr. Fuhrman, but just as a Nutritarian, for somebody who's changed their diet, they lost 100 pounds, they got rid of their problems, it's their birthday, and they're going out to have some barbecued ribs and some cheesecake a la mode, whatever they're eating, and they felt great, it's not going to kill them to have one bad meal, but you know what, because they had this emotional attachment to their favorite food with these ribs or something, right? And they taste them, they go, I don't even like it as much as I used to. It's too like overly spicy and seasoned, it's too salty. And they had this memory of thinking they loved it, but they find out that they start to eat the ice cream. It's sweet and it's good, but I can taste the bleach in it. And I like my ice cream at home, where I have the frozen bananas, the crushed macadamia nuts, and real vanilla bean powder has more creamy, smooth, and better flavor than this. This is too sweet. I can't even take. It's just sugary and artificial vanilla crap. It's you can taste the artificial vanilla and the sugar and the bleach they use to clean the ice cream machines. It's true, because your taste gets so sensitive. I want to go home and eat my ice cream instead, because you thought you would have loved that stuff, but you realize that your stuff that you're making at home actually tastes better. And then you're up all night with stomach pain, and you can't move your bowels the next morning, and you're drinking water the whole night because the salt made you so dehydrated. You say, well, it's not even worth it. It didn't even taste that great. So inevitably, I wouldn't eat that stuff because I'm not attracted to it anymore, because I like my stuff better. If I did, I wouldn't feel well. But most of the thousands of people who do that, find they don't miss that stuff as much as they thought they would with time, because they have replacement foods that taste just as good, and those foods eventually lose their attraction to them because they're not as well flavored as the recipes that are healthier. The recipes that are healthier have more subtle flavors. I was on Live with Kelly and Michael. Michael Strahan used to be on Live with Kelly. Now he moved it now. So making this burger on the set, on air, and Kelly says, wow, that's a super healthy burger. Mushrooms and quinoa in there, and almond butter in there, and tomato paste. That's going to really be phenomenal. And she said to me, I eat this way, I follow your diet. And then Michael says, not me. He says, I need my meat, because I like a meaty burger. I'm not going to like this burger. So I started hitting him with the mitt, you know what I mean?
The oven mitt.
With the oven mitt, right? And I said, Michael, you taste this burger. I'll put like a half an ounce to 1 ounce of meat in your burger. It'll be an 8-ounce burger. I'll give a little flavor of meat in there, but with the tempeh and the mushroom and the almond butter and all these flavorings, it'll suck up that little flavor of a touch of meat in there, and you get a little meaty taste. But you get a lot of other subtle flavors in the tongue. They'll dance on your tongue with the onion and tomato, that you like it better than a regular burger. So he tastes it and goes, wow, that's the best burger I ever ate in my life. So I gave him his little touch of meat in there to give it a little touch of meat flavor. And I was showing people on TV that you don't, if you wanted a little bit of meat, then you don't have to totally eat unhealthy. Michael, change your diet, get healthy. Could you still do it? Yeah. And with time, he wouldn't even eat the meat. He'd like it without it,
I really like that because that's like on the nutritional excellence spectrum. That's pretty darn good. It's having the meat in there. It's a lot of calories and not a lot of nutrients. So
right. It's a little bit of anyway. It's not the same thing as eating honey and maple syrup or sugar or guava nectar that all these people are doing and pouring oil over their foods.
Yeah.
The biggest scam ever perpetrated on the American population was teaching them and having them accept the nonsense that oil is health food. That pouring olive oil and coconut oil on your food is healthy for you. That putting empty calories, boosting up your calories, putting fattening foods, pure calories with no nutrients and no fiber, and it convinced people that those are health foods, and people are pouring them on the foods and taking them.
So could you tell us?
It blows my mind that people are so stupid. I shouldn't say so stupid, but they're just so gullible to believe the marketing scam that's been perpetrated on them.
Yeah. So could you tell us, because you articulate it so eloquently, how oil is not a health food?
Oh, well, if you accept the fact that we're looking for nutrients in our food, and empty calories actually age us, which they do. But here's the thing, is that when you eat oil, it's 120 calories a tablespoon. Mm-hmm. And because there's no fiber, all the calories get absorbed into your bloodstream extremely rapidly within 5 minutes. When calories flood the bloodstream in such a concentrated form, they stimulate dopamine receptors in the brain and create an addictive tendency to want to go after concentrated calories, making you want to increase your appetite and eat more food. So they make you into a food addict. And when you have that, you didn't just take in the 120 calories from oil, it made you want to eat more calories in the meal as well, because you got the brain stimulation from all the concentrated calories. Furthermore, oils have pro-inflammatory effects on the endothelium, on the interior wall of your blood vessels too. But when calories flood the bloodstream so rapidly, it has the effect to induce fat storage and fat storage hormones. And fat storage hormones have effect to cause cellular replication and promote cancer as well. So when you have fat on your body, those fat cells produce inflammatory compounds, of course, but they also promote angiogenesis inhibitors, which make fat, the word angiogenesis, I said it wrong. I said that fat cells produce angiogenesis inhibitors. I meant to say fat cells produce angiogenesis promoters, which promotes the growth of blood vessels to grow into the fat, to feed more fat growth. Now, nuts and seeds and mushrooms and onions and berries are angiogenesis inhibitors. They don't let fat grow on the body bloodstream. But oil has the effect to inhibit the uptake of insulin in cells, increasing insulin resistance, and then more insulin is more angiogenesis promoting, and extra insulin is more fat storage promoting. It sets the stage for excess fat promotion in the body. When your fat, on the other hand, comes from nuts and seeds, walnuts, not walnut oil, sesame seeds, not sesame oil, pecans, not pecan oil, then the calories are absorbed very slowly, 1 to 2 calories a minute, not 30 to 40 calories a minute. When the calories are absorbed so slowly, they're preferentially burned for energy, and the body is not utilizing them for fat storage, number one. But the sterols and stanols and the fibers in the nuts and seeds attract fat so tightly like a magnet that they suck fat into the toilet bowl. So all the calories from nuts and seeds are not biologically accessible. So they turned the appestat down by the 60 calories you just ate, but only 50 calories came in. So there's a negative calorie effect because you don't want to eat less calories, and you're not hungry the rest of the day, but you didn't even get all those calories into the body that you thought you did, that your body thought it did. And those nut and seed calories facilitate the absorption of the anti-cancer phytochemicals from the vegetables you ate. So the studies on all the large-scale studies where you have many hundreds of thousands of people followed for decades, found that people who eat nuts and seeds have radically longer life and lower death from cardiovascular disease and cancer. For example, the Adventist Health Study 2 just came out in March of 2018. It found that those Seventh-day Adventists, there were 88,000 in the study and about 4,000 deaths, found that in the lowest quintile of nut and seed consumption, compared to the highest quintile, the word quintile means 5 different levels of nut and seed consumption, the ones that ate the most nuts and seeds had a 40% lower risk of early life cardiovascular death. 40% lower risk of death, eating nuts and seeds compared to lower amounts. That means not eating nuts and seeds is almost the level of risk of having meat as far as heart attacks are concerned. And any person advising a person lower or cut out the nuts and seeds from their diet is creating much higher propensity of both cancer death and cardiovascular deaths. So the question is, do you have enough calories in your dietary portfolio to be eating both oil and nuts and seeds? Or if you're going to eat the walnut, you eat the walnut oil too? If I asked any nutritional scientist or any of these oil promoters, I can mention one doctor after another who's promoting a lot of oil and fat in their diets. And I say to them on the air in an interview on the radio, I'll say, do you actually try to tell me that you think walnut oil is better for you than walnuts? Or sesame seed oil is better for you than sesame seeds? So, no. The person will say, no, I know that the whole seed has lignans and has nutrients in it, has fibers, is better for people. Okay, so you're telling me then that the person should eat the oil on top of the nuts and seeds then? Well, you show me a diet where a person's not going to exceed their caloric needs if you use both. Okay, then you have to agree with me that then the vast majority of fat intake must come from nuts and seeds, not from oil, and they're forced to say you're right.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So the question is, you're going to use oil, you're going to use nuts and seeds as your source of fat. Yeah. So the Nutritarian diet uses nuts and seeds, and you get more flavor out of it too.
For sure.
Let me give you a dressing made with oranges, whipped with some blood orange vinegar and sesame seeds and cashews and a little squeeze of lemon. And you should tell me that's going to taste better by putting sesame seed oil versus sesame seeds in there, and the cashew oil versus cashew nuts. It gets more creamy, more embodiment. It has a better mouthfeel and tongue. It's much better tasting. At Thanksgiving Thanksgiving dinner, we had a fruity salad with pomegranates and little dried cherries. They were sour dried cherries that were soaked to make them a little softer in the salad, and little apple strudels. I made a dressing. I took some pear vinegar, and I mixed it with some hemp seeds and cashews and cinnamon and a little apple and water. I think that was the only ingredients. Huh. I made an incredible dressing. That salad would never have tasted. The salad tasted like dessert.
Yeah, it sounds like dessert.
It was the cinnamon and the pear vinegar, and it was just unbelievable. Yeah. And a little bit of dried cherries in there. It was fantastic. Yeah. But you couldn't. So what I'm saying, it even tastes better when you eat right. And people don't recognize that.
Well, last night at our Thanksgiving dinner, Susanna made a oil-free dressing that we fed our family, and no one could, no one could believe that it was oil-free. And for the most part, our whole Thanksgiving meal was oil-free, and I think people were still satisfied.
We had the greatest meal. My kids were saying, "Wow, this is the best tasting Thanksgiving meal I ever had." Yeah. Like the healthier it is, the more, and because you can make things taste great. It's like having your cake and eat it too, in the service, because why not have great health and have great tasting food at the same time? Yeah. And that's what we do here at the retreat too. People have a good time here. It's a fun place to be as they watch their body metamorphosize and get better,
Yeah, for sure. So back to a question I said earlier, what would be a stretch for you nutritionally? Does that happen, or do you stick to your guns? If you go out to eat to a restaurant, do you find something that fits in the Nutritarian program for you, or?
Well, I enjoy that the most. I'll occasionally have something that's not perfect. Yeah. But it's just on such an occasion that's not even relevant. You know what I mean?
I'm curious. Do you feel it in your body like something's a little off?
No, not really, because I don't have much of it. Yeah. I'm going to fill up on whatever's healthy. And if I have some little thing that wasn't so healthy, I don't eat bad enough to really feel it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. What do you recommend? So are you essentially recommending to people who are coming here to like not eat out, or or maybe the question is, what guidance do you have when eating out?
By the way, we take them out once a month to a restaurant.
Great.
We take them out to to Cafe Gratitude. Okay. So we take them out to a healthy restaurant here. And I tell them what to order on the menu. Whatever we can get somebody else, so they just for fun for them. Yeah. So they like to get out of the house. You know what I mean? For sure. But yeah, we teach them how to eat out, and we teach them how to. Yeah. You can call ahead. You can how to order in a restaurant, how to pick the best things in a restaurant. And we find most of the people, when you eat restaurant food, you're not filled with enough food. It's like tiny portions. I once went to a restaurant. It was like $14.95 for a mash salad. I said, I love mash salad. I love mash. That's my favorite green. I'm so excited to have that on the menu. So they give me a mash salad. It was like 3 little pieces of mash the size of your thumb. I'm saying, can I have like 14 of those? It's like, I want to eat my salad. I want to have a lot of food. I want to feel satisfied. You can't get satisfied in a restaurant. It's like they give you thimble-sized portions of food. It's like amazing.
And I think that's where the oil comes in, because you get enough calories.
You got to get your calories from concentrated stuff and all the sugar and all the oil and all the cheese is melted on there, right? You can't just eat. Mm-hmm. But they don't you can't eat a satisfying amount of food either.
Yeah, I always say if you go out to a restaurant and you order, the vegan dish, you really get gypped, because calorically speaking,
eat first before you go out.
That's probably the best trick. Yeah, right. Then you can have the little garnish of the mash on
Unless you go to one of these salad places nowadays where they have these chopped salads. They have these places where right near here too, where you can go down and you can say, oh, I'll take that lettuce and the kale, and I'll take the bok choy, and I'll take the chickpeas and the sun-dried tomatoes, and I'll take those mushrooms, and I'll take that, and they put it on. Oh, give me an extra bit of avocado on there, and I'll take the tahini dressing, and they have this like fits in this big bowl, and they're chopping it up, and they put it into this bowl, and it's, so you can like custom make your salad in these places now they have available today. So now they do have a lot of places you can go that compared to years ago to get healthy food.
It's true. Yeah. It's not, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no excuses. So regarding weight loss specifically, do you ever recommend people to count their calories or to moderate what they're eating and counting nutrients and these kind of things?
Yes and no, not specifically, but let's say a person, they're so attuned to overeating because our American societal norms have to do with over-consuming calories. So they still have a tendency to eat too much food, and they're not hungry. They're eating all the time, they're not hungry, they're eating recreationally. So what we do is we usually limit the eating window. It's not counting calories as much, but we tell them we got to quit eating at 4 o'clock, that's it for the day, you're not eating any more food. You know what I mean? So you have 2 meals a day, you're eating at 9 and you're eating at 3, 9 and 3, if you're, so we'll cut back, and then we'll say, don't eat so you feel stuffed. I would say, how's your pancreas feeling today? Well, I don't feel anything in my pancreas. How's your kidney feeling? Well, the same thing should be for your stomach. You shouldn't feel you have a stomach. I don't want you to eat so you feel any distension or discomfort. Stop eating when you're no longer hungry, when you're satisfied. But if you eat so much, you're not going to be hungry for your next meal. And hunger is the best sauce, because when you get hungry, it increases your taste buds sensitivity, and you enjoy the next meal better. So if you overeat the first meal of the day, you're going to make the second meal less enjoyable. You want to adjust your quantity of what you eat so that you get hungry right before lunch, or you get hungry right before dinner. If you're hungry many hours before lunch or dinner, then you ate too little. If you never get hungry, then you ate too much. But if you wait, so you're just starting to get hungry, then you ate the right amount. So some women, for example, don't need that many calories. They only should be eating 2 meals a day because they're not going to get hungry 3 times a day. And me, I usually, if I eat 2 meals a day, I'm going to get too thin. I need 3 meals a day from all the exercise I like to do. So especially the day after I exercise. Like I can eat 2 meals one day, but if I exercise that day heavily, the next morning I'm really hungry when I wake up because I ate dinner early, like at 5 o'clock or something. You know what I mean? So I'll alternate. But in any case, what I'm saying is we teach people how to be in tune with their instinctual feelings for hunger, satiative feelings for the digestive tract, and how to control their rhapsody and to control their eating time, eating window, so they can get onto the right amount of calories for them, so they lose approximately 2 pounds per week. If the person is overweight, significantly overweight, and not losing 2 pounds per week, they're doing something wrong, because you should be losing 2 pounds a week if you're doing everything right.
Are there any weight loss promoting foods that you like to recommend, or?
Well, some foods do fill you up with like a lot of solid substance, and soups are great at that.
Yeah.
So that's why, I have salad and soup for lunch, because the heavy salad and the soup both fill you up, but you feel like you're eating a lot of food. You couldn't even eat anymore, but it doesn't give you much calories. And then also, we make a lot of dishes for people who are overweight and diabetic with things like artichokes and artichoke hearts and eggplants and asparagus and things that have a heavy water content and heavy feel to them, but fill you up with very little calories. Artichokes, for example, are high in protein, high in fiber, low in calories, and they occupy space in your stomach, so they make you feel full. So they're a perfect weight loss food. You know what I mean? So I'll make a lot of artichoke heart dishes, and I buy like frozen artichokes. Like at Whole Foods, I'll buy those boxes of frozen artichokes in the row. I love to eat artichokes because they're really satisfying. But you get a lot of great vegetables, and I'll take like a hummus dip, like a hummus made with sesame seeds and chickpeas, and I'll put a baked eggplant in there to dilute the caloric content. So I'm putting like a little horseradish, maybe a touch of spice or a little bit of paprika or some kind of roasted garlic in there. So I'm making this roasted garlic, little peppery hummus dip. I'll put a baked eggplant and mix it in there too, because that'll dilute the caloric density of it, because the eggplant's so low in calories and they have a nice flavor to it. And they can use it more liberally when they're dipping in their carrot sticks or their peppers or their snow pea pods or their broccoli. They're putting raw vegetables on this dip. They can use the dip liberally because it's not as calorically dense because I mix the eggplant in there. You know what I mean? So salsa dips and hummus dips or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a great little tip there. Regarding hunger, you were talking about getting people in tune with, their appetite and their hunger and allowing themselves to be hungry. Do you have any tips or insight around that? Because I do feel like a lot of people are really disconnected from what their bodies are saying, and, they can't feel their stomach. They can't feel if it's full.
They don't know it's hunger. They're not feeling hunger. They're feeling, most people are feeling withdrawal from their unhealthy diet.
Right.
So they feel shakiness and weakness and fatigue and stomach cramping and headache, and they think those are hunger.
Right. So do
those are not hunger.
Do you have any words of wisdom or insight for people to really tune into what true hunger is?
They cannot. They cannot tune into true hunger unless they get healthy first. Yeah. You can't have real hunger when you're eating unhealthy foods. So that's why diets fail, because people don't focus on the quality of what they're eating. They just focus on the quantity. And as long as they focus on quantity, then hunger is going to be discombobulated.
That makes a lot of sense.
And they can't control, if you want to be able to be in touch with true hunger and have hunger be a precise computer directing you to the right amount of calories, then you have to eat a healthy diet, because you can't get hunger when you're detoxifying.
And can you explain a little bit again, reiterate why that is, why we can't get the authentic hunger signals from our brains?
Because when your body is digesting food, in the anabolic phase, when calories are coming in, the liver can't repair and remove toxins, and you can't heal and take things out of the body as well. It's in the non-feeding state, when you're not digesting anymore, because the body is more effectively and efficiently repairing itself and removing toxins. When your body is overly toxic and malnourished, then the flood of waste products, especially uric acid, urea, ammonia, and other glycation end products, flood the bloodstream, causing fatigue when you not stop eating food. And people think the fatigue and weakness and shakiness and even withdrawal depression they get. They get withdrawal depression from not eating the rich foods anymore. So they start to feel ill in the non-feeding state, and they interpret that as hunger. And it's almost too overwhelming not to eat again when you're feeling so sick from not eating. When you're eating a healthy diet, you don't feel anything in the catabolic phase when you're not digesting food anymore. You feel nothing because your body is not busy detoxing. So it's the body, the longer you live in the phase when you're not digesting, called the catabolic phase, the longer you live. Because that's because your body is healing and repairing more when you're not digesting food. The standard American diet contingency can't tolerate the way they feel when they're not digesting. So when they're not digesting, they're forced to keep eating food all the time. So they have to put food in their mouth, almost every waking hour. When the food, or the body's digested, they're putting food in again. They're eating too frequently or too much or too heavy to digest foods to keep the digestive tract busy all the time, so they have to become overweight. They don't tolerate the way they feel when their stomach is empty. When you're a Nutritarian, you lose those ill feelings in the catabolic phase, you feel nothing, and then you could not eat till hunger kicks in, which is way later, and hunger then is felt in the mouth and the neck and the throat, not in the head or the stomach, and it's not uncomfortable. For example, I can come home at night after eating an early dinner and I could go to bed a little hungry. It's not a big deal. It's probably a lifespan enhancing tool to skip dinner or eat an earlier dinner. If I'm coming home from work and a friend calls up on the phone and says, "Hey, Joe, you want to go play some tennis? But I'm really hungry." I'll say, "Sure, let's go play tennis." I start running around, the hunger goes away. The hunger is only mild, and hunger is not so uncomfortable that you can't just ignore it if you want to. And it goes away when you exercise anyway. And then I stop exercising, come back home, and the hunger will return, and I'll eat. The point is that the hunger no longer controls your life. You're back in control. You have the keys to the bank back. When you're a food addict, you have no control over your life, and your addictive drives control you, and you can't be as good a productive, as intelligent, as good a father, a mother, or a brother. You can't be as good as for humanity. You can't be the full human being that you could be. You can't reach your natural potential as a person when you're an addict, and it's a cocaine addict, an alcoholic, or a food addict, because you're losing part of your life to those addictive drives, and you're not in control of your decision making anymore. So it gives you back your life, and it gives you back control. And it gives you back decision-making to do the right thing for yourself and your loved ones.
Yeah, that's powerful. In your experience here, specifically working with people in this immersive setting, are there any really touching or inspirational healing stories? Like, what has been the most profound thing that you've witnessed in other people in your time working with people in this sort of setting?
Oh, yeah. Every person has a touching story, but what's shocking and what's touching is that people will wait to come here until they're so sick, as I was touching to you before, that they'll come here and I'll look at them and I'll say, "Wow, you waited until now, till you're so close to death or you need to be hospitalized now, because you're in such bad condition right now." But still,
and still the nutrition can kick in.
A guy came in last month. He actually came in 2 months ago. He was staying for 3 months. He was having chest pain and sweating, and he couldn't walk. And he was popping nitros all the time on isobide and on calcium channel blockers and beta blockers and everything. And I said, this is really, this, you should be at the hospital, not here. So I said, well, if you're not, but he said, well, I've been like this for the last couple of weeks and I haven't died yet. So I said, well, we'll see how you do over the next couple of days. But if you think, keep an eye on you really closely. But if you're not doing well, you're going to go back to you can go to the hospital. I can't take a chance on you here. But of course, he completely got well.
Yeah, there's
where
absolutely
where he couldn't walk. 8 weeks later, he's trudging up and down the mountains. Walking up and down the hills. He dropped 50 pounds, of course.
Yeah.
But his he's back to normal again. These people are almost in tears of gratitude. That but we watched them very carefully. I had a man who had bypass surgery, clogged up again in 4 years. Then he had angioplasty, triple angioplasty on top of the bypass. But it restenosed right away, because he had clogged. It cut down with scar tissue almost immediately within a few weeks. So he was sent home to die on a lot of medications, and he still couldn't breathe, sweating, couldn't walk, in a wheelchair. Over 300 pounds, by the way, about 310 pounds. He lost about 140 pounds that first year, and within, I'd say, 3 months, he was out going to the gym, working out, doing crunches. He couldn't even get out of a wheelchair. It's amazing how fast these people can make a recovery. In the time it takes you to get it examined, to have your stress test, have your catheterization, be admitted to the hospital, have your bypass, go through rehab, and get back to work again. We have these people at the same time all fixed up with no medical intervention except food, all fixed up already.
It's amazing.
With no spending $300,000 to be admitted and have these expensive procedures. And the point is, though, but once you have the chest cut open, and once you have your chest cracked in the vessels, your heart's never the same. It's much safer to do this with food. We should put these interventional cardiologists out of business and these cardiac surgeons out of business. And they made me a lecturer. They made me a speaker at the C3 conference where all the cardiac intensivists come together each year. And they gave me an award on stage for saving the most lives in cardiac. So these guys who do the procedures recognize what I do is so important and so valuable. And they said that we should do less procedures. If we get more people to listen to you. And they were really enthusiastic about it. I was like so shocked. I was going, wow, these guys are really good guys, and they don't even want to do the procedures. Because some of them work for the VA, and they don't really get paid based on how many they do. But a lot of them recognize that they wouldn't want to do those procedures on themselves and their family. They want people to eat right.
Yeah.
And they would want people to eat better, so they don't need those procedures. And I was so shocked by that. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. Yeah, that's really something. And it leads me to wonder, what do you feel like is the disconnect between where we're at and where we need to be?
Food addiction. Yeah. I think, addiction. People can't think. They'll believe any kind of nonsense. They're eating a paleo diet or a ketogenic diet, eating all these and they know that now we have long-term studies that show conclusively that those diets are dangerous. We know that we know the answer for cancer. We know we can not have people get cancer. We know how we can not get people getting heart disease, but people don't like the answer. They're looking for a different answer. The answer is vegetables. They don't like that answer. They want a magic pill so they can smoke 3 packs a day and not get lung cancer. They can keep their smoking going. Yeah. The addiction is so incredible that people will deny the reality of life that we're a vegetable eating animal. You know what I mean? It's insane. Yeah. But addictions do that to people.
Yeah. They need some more G-bombs.
Yep.
They need more G-bombs.
G-bombs. Okay. Yeah. We'll conclude on that note.
Yeah. Well, in addition to G-bombs, which are greens, berries.
Greens, beans. Onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds.
In addition to our G-bombs, do you like to sprinkle anything else into the Nutritarian diet on a regular basis?
I love other foods. We want as much variety of foods as possible. It's just G-bombs pay your attention on the most anti-cancer foods to include those, but people eat a lot. Can eat hundreds of types of foods. I even have a book that's called The 100 Best Foods, one of my pamphlets. So I want people to eat greens and beans and mushrooms and onions for sure, but they can eat zillions of other stuff with it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, if you could encapsulate a nutrient or a food or something, like one thing, if you could encapsulate it, maybe it's not even a food, maybe it's a walk on the beach. If you could encapsulate one thing and give it to everybody and just say, hey, take this, here's your medicine, what do you think it would be?
Have a big salad every single day as your main dish, at least one of your meals. If you don't do that, that's so critical, because for so many different reasons we can not to discuss right now. Yeah. So if you're going to take anything out of that, have a big serving of a big salad at least once a day, and use a healthy dressing made with nuts and seeds, and use the red onion, and all the things you're supposed to put on your salad, like cruciferous on your salad, like red cabbage or, kale or bok choy or, or some kind of arugula or watercress. And so do that one. If you can't do only one thing, just do that.
I think it's funny that you say that, because I always say that the salad is the multivitamin, or
salad is the main dish.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the secret ingredient that has the powerful lifespan promoting effects in kale, the secret ingredient is the kale. The secret ingredient in broccoli is broccoli. In other words, there's thousands of nutrients in there.
Yeah.
You can't extract the one. There's thousands of stuff in there. It's the whole thing, the way it's put together. Yeah. It's the synergy, right?
The synergy. And and put a good sauce on that, and you got it. And I love what you said about hunger being the best sauce. So let yourself, what I hear you saying is, let yourself really be called by your appetite towards the foods that are most healing and nourishing.
This becomes a very fun, tasty, and exciting way to live, and it removes people's fear, and it removes you having to be reliant on the medical profession to torture you, and to have not just the side effects of drugs, but to have tests and screenings and going, and all these things going, and actually be in hospitals all the time and have medical procedures being put on you, and putting tools putting medical technology in the orifices of your body. Who wants to undergo that? You'd rather just eat healthy and be healthy all the time.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's been a real honor and pleasure, and thanks for the inspiration and wisdom.
My pleasure.
And
best of luck to you, and best of health to all your listeners.
Yeah, peace and love, and thanks for tuning in.